It was June 14th, 1983. Daniel Morgan was 34 years old, a seasoned park ranger in the Rocky Mountains near Estes Park, Colorado. He knew these mountains intimately, as well as the back of his hand. On that day, the sky was crisp and the air was sharp with the scent of pine. Daniel set out on a routine patrol, but by nightfall, he had simply evaporated. Search teams combed every ridge, every ravine, and every glade for months. They found nothing, not a campsite, not a footprint, not even his hat wedged under a boulder. In 1987, the state officially declared him dead, and his story was filed away under unsolved records. Fast forward to September 2021. A hiker was exploring a remote, isolated village tucked deep in the northern Rockies, miles from any marked trail. There, leaning against the weathered railing of a wooden cabin, was a man who looked impossibly familiar. When authorities arrived, the man spoke a single name: Daniel. But here's the tricky part. Daniel walked with a calm, deliberate pace, as if the 40 years he had missed were merely a brief pause or a dream. Doctors were baffled. He bore no signs of malnutrition or exposure. His heart, lungs, and muscles were in near-perfect condition. One physician whispered that it was biologically impossible. When Daniel finally met his mother, now in her 70s, he nodded slowly as she clutched his hands in disbelief. He asked about old trails and colleagues who had long since retired or passed away. When asked about the missing decades, a shadow crossed his face. "I don't remember," he said. "It's like there was nothing, but sometimes I feel it." Psychologists noted that his survival instincts were rewired. He sensed dangers and resources no ordinary human could detect. On his first night back in a modern home, the hum of electricity and the smell of canned food triggered small frights. He woke at 2:14 a.m., whispering coordinates and staring into shadowed corners, muttering, "They're watching. I shouldn't be here." A series of carvings were later found on a tree in that remote village. They formed a calendar, tracking 40 years of seasonal changes with surgical precision. When Daniel saw them, he murmured, "It's right. They told me to wait until it was time." To this day, Daniel walks the snow-dusted trails of the Rockies, tethered to a mountain that refuses to fully let him go. While Daniel was lost in the cold peaks, another ranger was being claimed by the humidity of the South. On September 12, 1995, Marlene Ortiz stepped into the mangroves near Shark River in the Florida Everglades and vanished. For nearly 3 decades, her name was a ghost in the ranger stations, etched into missing person posters that faded under the Florida sun. The Everglades are a labyrinth of shifting waters and dense foliage where escape is nearly impossible. Officials presumed her dead by December 1995. Then, in 2024, the impossible happened. A woman matching Marlene's description appeared on a remote lakeshore deep in the swamp. She had no phone, no wallet, and no modern trace. Her reunion with her parents, now in their late 70s, was raw and intense. Marlene barely recognized them. She murmured about trees, water, and voices. Her memories fragmented like a puzzle missing its center. Like Daniel, her body was lean and strong, bearing no signs of the 3 decades she had supposedly spent in the wild. She had survived storms, snake bites, and heat exhaustion, yet she appeared lucid and alert. Local residents began telling stories of a lone woman they had glimpsed over the years, moving silently among the cypress roots like a shadow among shadows. But Marlene remembered none of them. She only recalled survival techniques from her ranger training. When her brother asked if she ever thought of them, she shook her head. "Sometimes voices, but I couldn't reach you. I tried. Or maybe I imagined it." The first night back in civilization was a nightmare. Marlene froze by the refrigerator, staring at the blinking light as if it might explode, whispering, "It's too bright, too fast." Her perception of time and connection had been rewired by the swamp silence. Investigators found no evidence of habitation where she was found no camp, no tools. Her survival was quiet, hidden, and spectral. Even as she reintegrates, the Everglades shadow remains a part of her. A chilling reminder that some stories hold secrets that nature never intended to share. The final piece of this temporal puzzle takes us to Arizona. On May 14, 1989, Victor Nguyen disappeared from the Tonto National Forest. His shift ended at dusk. His Jeep was found parked near a remote canyon, and his campsite was perfectly arranged. His boots were placed neatly beside his tent, and a notebook was left open on the ground. For 33 years, the desert was silent. Then, in 2022, a hiker in a narrow ravine near the Salt River saw a man emerging from the shadows. His clothes were rudimentary leather patched with desert flora, his hair long and unkempt. He spoke in careful, deliberate English. "My name is Victor Nguyen." Victor's reintegration was equally unsettling. He described the desert in poetic terms, sunsets like molten gold and waterholes that whispered. He spoke of predators as teachers and companions. "I learned to wait, to watch, to be part of the desert," he said. But the gaps in his memory were vast. He couldn't account for months or years at a time. Investigators found tracks in the sand, suggesting Victor used condensation traps and collection methods unlike anything in survival manuals. He mentioned encounters with other figures, shadows that came and went but never touched. Mara, a reporter who ventured into the canyon with him, noticed he handled the landscape with reverent precision, reading the winds and identifying plants with ease. Yet, he flinched at modern noises and cross-referenced his life with a loneliness so vast it became a living presence. Victor still disappears into the canyons for weeks at a time, returning with a calm, distant gaze. He carries no technology. He remains a man both here and elsewhere, tethered to time yet untouched by it. Daniel, Marling, and Victor. 3 rangers. 3 different environments. One identical, impossible result. They were returned by the wilderness exactly as they were taken, as if the mountains, the swamps, and the deserts had put them in a stasis we cannot comprehend. Some call it a neurological anomaly. Others suggest spiritual intervention. But perhaps the truth is simpler. The wilderness is not just a place, but a witness. And sometimes it decides when it's time for the lost to come home. The ancient redwood forests and volcanic slopes of Northern California are renowned for a profound, heavy silence, a blanket-like density that seems to possess a supernatural ability to erase any trace of human presence. In October of 2013, 25-year-old geology student Maya Jimenez became a part of that silence. She went missing in the Gray Butte Trail area on Mount Shasta, sparking a search that lasted for weeks as teams combed every ravine and rocky ledge. Maya was no novice. She was a seasoned hiker whose studies were deeply intertwined with the volcanic landscapes of the Cascade Range. To her, the mountain was both a laboratory and a cathedral. She knew the switchbacks, the scree fields, and the gnarled junipers of the Gray Butte Trail intimately. It was a routine route, and that was the first detail that failed to add up. Her day began with mundane precision. A security camera at the old ski bowl parking lot recorded Maya's hatchback pulling in at 10:15 a.m. She stepped out, grabbed a bottle of water, a light windbreaker, and her sturdy backpack containing her rock hammer and field journal. Everything appeared normal. She signed the trail register at 10:40 a.m. with the confident, looping script of a young woman with a full day ahead of her. An hour later, a group of hikers descending the path saw her. They reported she looked cheerful and focused, moving with a steady gait. She smiled, offered a friendly greeting, and continued upward into the vast landscape of rock and sky. Then she vanished. The hours that followed became a terrifying blank. Maya was supposed to meet her roommate for dinner in Redding by 7:30 p.m., but she never arrived. When the search began after midnight, the parking lot was empty, except for her hatchback. Inside, the scene was eerily preserved. Her purse was under the seat. Her keys were in the ignition, and a half-eaten sandwich sat on the passenger side. Most unsettlingly, her cell phone sat in the cup holder, turned off. There were no signs of a struggle. It was as if she had simply stepped out of the vehicle and been swallowed whole by the mountain. Search dogs picked up a strong scent leading from the parking lot. But about 1.5 miles in, near a distinctive outcropping of red volcanic rock, the trail stopped cold. The handlers were baffled. It was as if Maya had been lifted into the sky. For 3 agonizing weeks, hundreds of volunteers, canine units, and helicopters equipped with thermal cameras scoured the rugged terrain. They found nothing, not a thread of clothing, not a misplaced stone. It was a perfect, terrifying void. By the end of July, the search was scaled back, and Maya's name was moved to the cold case files. Years passed, and Maya Jimenez's story faded into local lore, a ghost story told around campfires. But on May 20th, 2021, the mystery took a turn that defied all logical explanation. 3 members of a northern California caving group decided to venture into a remote northern section of the Shasta Trinity National Forest. They entered a sector officially closed to the public due to geological instability, exploring a lava tube system that was narrow and dangerous. Deep within the earth, in a breakdown room filled with a chaotic jumble of fallen rock, they found an obsidian arrowhead. It was pristine, showing no signs of dust or calcite deposits, which suggested it had been placed there recently. Driven by curiosity, they squeezed through a sideways passage into a small, dry grotto. In the far corner, propped against the uneven wall, sat a motionless figure. At first, the cavers thought they had found a centuries-old mummy. The person was skeletal, emaciated to an impossible degree, with skin the color of pale gray ash stretched taut over bone. Long, matted hair hung in lifeless strands. They were certain they had found a corpse until the lead caver noticed a tiny rhythmic rise and fall of the chest. The woman was breathing. She was alive, but her pupils were vacant and unresponsive to their headlamps. The rescue operation that followed was a masterpiece of technical difficulty, lasting 8 grueling hours as teams widened passages and built improvised supports to lift her from the depths. When she was finally airlifted to a trauma center, doctors found a litany of horrors: severe long-term hypothermia, chronic dehydration, and advanced vitamin deficiencies. X-rays revealed something even more sinister: several old, improperly healed fractures in her ribs and arms that had occurred at different times during her disappearance. Detective Kato Tanaka, a veteran of the strange cases surrounding Mount Shasta, led the forensic team back into the grotto. What they found suggested a reality darker than any accident. On the stone floor was an improvised bed of dense, matted moss and dried roots, shaped with clear indentations from long-term use. In another corner, a primitive reservoir made of carefully arranged stones collected water dripping from the ceiling. A small, neat pile of rodent bones sat nearby, their skulls broken open in a way that suggested someone had been eating their brains for nutrients. This was not the work of a panicked hiker. It was a habitat. Most crucially, they found Maya's backpack. Inside was her field journal. Though most of it was ruined by moisture, one page contained a shaky, hand-drawn map of the cave system with an arrow pointing to a passage marked "Exit." Below it, a chilling sentence was written in uneven letters: "It's blocked." He closed the passage. Geologists confirmed that the rubble blocking that exit was not a natural rockfall. Stones showed scratches from tools, and traces of clay mud not native to that cave were found, implying someone had brought material in to seal the grotto. As Maya slowly reintegrated into reality, fragments of her testimony began to paint her of a man she called the Shepherd. She recalled falling on the mountain and waking up in the dark. The shepherd never showed his face, always keeping his form shrouded in the shadow of a weak yellow lantern. He provided her with water and roots, acting with a calm but absolute authority that felt like mercy to her weakened mind. Whenever she tried to find the light, he moved stones to block her path. Investigation into local archives revealed a possible identity for this phantom: Elias Thorne, a brilliant but eccentric volcanologist who had been dismissed from a mining company 10 years prior. Thorne had been obsessed with the idea that a solar event would soon make the Earth's surface uninhabitable, believing humanity had to adapt to life underground to survive. In a remote, abandoned camp, investigators found Thorne's observation diaries. The pages described the movements of hikers like Maya, referring to them as potentials or candidates. One entry read, "She still fears the dark, but the dark will be her teacher." Another stated, "The exit is closed. The lesson must not be disturbed." Despite the discovery of his world, Elias Thorne was never found. He vanished into the labyrinthine, unmapped lava tubes he knew better than any living soul. Maya Jimenez returned to the world of the living, but the damage was profound. She suffered from debilitating claustrophobia and a spatial perception that remained permanently altered. She would sit for hours by windows, rediscovering the way sunlight fell on the floor, yet she would flinch at every shadow. Her doctors noted that while her body survived, a part of her consciousness remained in the stone. Even today, the case remains officially open, a collection of photographs, diaries, and maps with no final report. The shadow cast by the shepherd continues to live on within the mountain, a silent reminder that some secrets of the wilderness are not just natural hazards, but the deliberate architecture of a mind that has completely abandoned the sun. Subscribe and witness the next true disappearance or return every other day.